Silence is often described as peaceful, calm, restful, something we are supposed to crave in a world filled with noise. And yet, for many people, silence does not feel comforting at all. It feels heavy, awkward, unsettling, even threatening in ways that are difficult to explain. In quiet moments, when there is nothing to distract the mind, nothing to fill the space between thoughts, some people feel a sudden rise in anxiety, a tightness in the chest, a restless urge to speak, scroll, move, or create sound. It is as if stillness itself becomes uncomfortable, as if silence exposes something that feels too vulnerable to face. If you have ever found yourself reaching for your phone the moment a conversation pauses, turning on background noise even when you are tired or feeling uneasy when alone in a quiet room, you are not weak. You are not broken. You are responding to patterns that were shaped long before you were aware of them. Silence, for many people, is not empty. It is full of memories, emotions, and unprocessed experiences waiting to be noticed. To understand why silence feels uncomfortable for some people, we first have to understand what silence does to the human mind. When external noise fades, internal noise becomes louder. Thoughts that were buried beneath tasks, conversations, and responsibilities suddenly rise to the surface. Regrets, fears, self-doubt, old wounds, questions about identity, worth, and direction. In silence, there is nowhere to hide from these inner voices. And for someone who learned early in life that emotions were unsafe, unwanted, or overwhelming, this can feel deeply threatening. Many people who struggle with silence grew up in environments where emotional expression was inconsistent or discouraged. Perhaps they lived in homes where conflict was unpredictable, where silence meant tension rather than peace. Maybe quiet moments were followed by criticism, withdrawal, or emotional distance. In those settings, silence was not soothing. It was a warning sign, a signal that something was wrong. Over time, the nervous system learned to associate quiet with danger. Others grew up in homes where their emotional needs were not fully met. They may have learned that being noticed required being entertaining, helpful, talkative, or useful. Speaking became a way to secure connection. Filling space became a survival strategy. Silence, in contrast, felt like invisibility, like being forgotten, like disappearing. So even in adulthood, quiet moments can trigger a subtle fear of abandonment or irrelevance. For some, discomfort with silence comes from growing up in chaotic environments, homes filled with noise, arguments, constant movement, or instability. In these spaces, stillness rarely existed. The brain adapted to high stimulation. It learned to remain alert, scanning for changes, threats, or shifts in mood. When life later becomes quieter, the nervous system does not immediately relax. Instead, it feels unsettled. Restlessness appears. The body searches for familiar stimulation. Silence feels foreign, even unsafe. There is also a strong connection between silence and unresolved emotional pain. When someone has experienced trauma, neglect, rejection, or chronic stress, their mind often learns to stay busy as a form of protection. Distraction becomes armor. Productivity becomes identity. Entertainment becomes escape. The moment things slow down, buried memories and emotions begin to rise. So the brain avoids stillness, not out of weakness, but out of self-preservation. In adulthood, this discomfort with silence often shows up in subtle, everyday ways. Someone may feel anxious during pauses in conversation, rushing to fill the gap with small talk. They may struggle to sit alone without music, podcasts, or television playing in the background. They might feel uneasy driving without noise. They may avoid quiet walks, meditation, or moments of reflection, not because they dislike peace, but because peace feels unfamiliar. In relationships, this pattern can create challenges. People who fear silence may interpret quiet moments as rejection. If their partner becomes quiet, they may assume something is wrong. They may overanalyze tone, facial expressions, and pauses. They may feel responsible for maintaining emotional energy in the relationship. Over time, this can lead to emotional exhaustion, insecurity, and misunderstandings. In friendships, they may feel pressure to always be on, always funny, always engaging, always available. Silence feels like failure. like proof they are not interesting enough. This can make authentic connection difficult because true intimacy often grows in shared quiet and comfortable presence, in moments that do not need performance. At work, discomfort with silence may show up as over-explaining, difficulty with focus, or anxiety during independent tasks. Some people feel uneasy when not actively producing something. Rest feels unearned. Stillness feels lazy. They may equate constant activity with worth, reinforcing a cycle of burnout. At the emotional level, avoiding silence often means avoiding oneself. It becomes harder to recognize personal needs, boundaries, and desires. Feelings get pushed aside. Stress accumulates. Over time, this can lead to emotional numbness, anxiety, or a sense of disconnection from one's own inner life. Modern culture also plays a powerful role in reinforcing this discomfort. We live in a world that rewards constant stimulation, notifications, feeds, messages, videos. Noise, silence is treated as something to be filled. Boredom is seen as failure. Stillness is viewed as unproductive. Many people never learn how to be alone with their thoughts because they are never encouraged to practice it. For individuals with anxious attachment patterns, silence can be especially difficult. When connection feels uncertain, quiet moments can trigger fears of abandonment. The absence of immediate reassurance feels threatening. The mind starts creating stories. They are losing interest. I said something wrong. I am not enough. These thoughts arise automatically, rooted in early experiences where love felt conditional or unstable. For those with perfectionistic tendencies, silence can also feel dangerous. In quiet moments, self-criticism often becomes louder. The inner voice begins reviewing mistakes, comparing, judging, replaying. Noise becomes a way to silence that voice. Without it, they are left alone with relentless standards and unmet expectations. Even people who appear confident and outgoing can struggle deeply with silence. In fact, high-functioning, socially skilled individuals often use communication as emotional regulation. Talking helps them manage anxiety. Humor helps them avoid vulnerability. Engagement helps them feel in control. When that disappears, it is important to understand that none of this means something is wrong with you. Your discomfort with silence is not a flaw. It is a story your nervous system learned to tell in order to survive. It is a pattern shaped by environment, relationships, and experiences. And patterns can be understood. They can be softened. They can be transformed. Learning to become comfortable with silence is not about forcing yourself into stillness. It is about building emotional safety within yourself. It is about learning that quiet does not mean danger, that presence does not require performance, that you are worthy even when you are doing nothing. This process begins with gentle awareness, noticing when you feel the urge to escape silence, not judging it, simply observing, asking yourself, what am I feeling right now? What am I trying to avoid? What does this moment bring up for me? These questions open the door to self-understanding. It also involves learning to tolerate small moments of stillness, a few minutes without background noise, a quiet walk, sitting with a cup of tea without distractions. These moments may feel uncomfortable at first. That is normal. You are retraining a nervous system that learned different rules. With time, these moments can become anchors rather than threats. Compassion plays a central role. When difficult thoughts arise in silence, respond with kindness. Instead of pushing them away, acknowledge them. I see you. I hear you. You're trying to protect me. This shifts the relationship you have with your inner world. For many people, journaling, mindfulness, therapy, or reflective practices can support this journey. These tools provide safe containers for self-exploration. They teach you that you can face your thoughts without being overwhelmed by them. As you become more comfortable with quiet, something subtle begins to change. You start to hear your own voice more clearly. Your intuition becomes louder. Your emotional needs become easier to recognize. You begin to feel grounded in yourself rather than dependent on external noise. Silence slowly transforms from something to escape into something to rest within. It becomes a place where you reconnect with who you are beneath roles, expectations, and performance. A place where you remember that your value does not depend on constant activity or constant connection. And perhaps most importantly, you learn that you are not alone in your quiet moments. You are accompanied by your resilience, your history, your growth, and your capacity for healing. Every moment of stillness you choose to face with kindness is an act of courage. If silence has felt uncomfortable for you, know that it does not have to stay that way forever. With patience, understanding, and self-compassion, it can become a source of strength, a reminder that you are safe within yourself, that you are allowed to rest, that you are enough, even in the quiet. And in that quiet, you may discover not emptiness, but clarity, not fear, but peace, not absence, but presence.